The lie you were told is that the corporate world is a meritocracy that rewards hard work, truth, and dedication. The truth is that the corporate world is a risk mitigation engine designed to extract maximum output for minimum capital, while neutralizing any variables that threaten its equilibrium. When you sit across from your manager during an annual review, you often experience a specific psychological vertigo. It is the disorienting, nameless sensation of realizing that your flawless performance metrics and your actual perceived value within the company do not align. You feel it when a glowing review culminates in a negligible 2% raise. This vertigo is not an accident. It is the byproduct of a fundamental misunderstanding of how the machine operates. To survive this negotiation, you must understand the logic of the system. The events that dictate your career trajectory are not driven by the malice or wickedness of individual managers. They are driven by the system's relentless pursuit of stability and predictability. Organizations do not reward truthfulness, transparency, or even exceptional innovation if those things introduce friction. They reward those who do not cause problems. They reward compliance. A highly competent employee who complains about structural inefficiencies is considered a net negative compared to a mediocre employee who quietly maintains the status quo. When you enter a salary negotiation, you are not engaging in a conversation about justice. You are engaging in a capital allocation dispute. If you use the wrong language, you will trigger the system's defensive mechanisms. Here are 5 critical phrases you should never use when discussing a salary increase, and the unseen institutional mechanics that explain exactly why. I am absolutely indispensable in my current role. No one does this specific job better than I do. The logic behind this statement seems sound to the employee. Establish supreme value to justify a higher price. The reality is that saying this triggers the competency trap. Being exceptionally good at your specific daily tasks is a formidable barrier to promotion and significant financial advancement. The system operates on replacement cost and operational friction. If you have optimized your current role to the point where replacing you would require hiring 2 people or spending 6 months training a novice, moving you out of that seat becomes a high-cost, high-risk proposition for your manager. Your manager's primary objective is the seamless operation of their department, not your personal career actualization. By declaring yourself indispensable in your current function, you are telling the system that you are structurally load-bearing exactly where you are. The system responds to load-bearing pillars by leaving them in place. A salary increase is often tied to an expansion of scope or a change in title. If you convince management that the department will collapse if you stop doing your current granular tasks, they will deny your upward mobility to preserve their own stability. You become a victim of your own localized efficiency. I need this raise because my rent went up, inflation is high, and my personal expenses have increased. This phrase exposes a fatal misunderstanding of the employer-employee transaction. The corporation is a financial instrument. It does not calculate your personal overhead. It only calculates the market value of the output you provide. Using your personal financial distress as leverage fails because the system is entirely dispassionate about your input costs. It does not matter if your commute is longer, your landlord raised your rent, or you had a child. When you introduce these variables, you shift the conversation from a business transaction to an appeal for corporate welfare. The system rejects this immediately. Furthermore, revealing personal financial pressure signals vulnerability. It tells the manager that you are highly economically dependent on the job. In a negotiation, the party with the least dependence dictates the terms. By advertising your desperation, you inadvertently signal that you are highly unlikely to quit, even if the raise is denied. The manager realizes they do not need to pay a premium to retain you, because your financial anxiety traps you in your current position. You negotiate against yourself by revealing that you have no leverage. Remember 3 years ago when the department's strategy failed and I stepped in to fix the disaster? This is a manifestation of the memory threat. Employees often believe that maintaining a long-term ledger of their past saves and the company's past mistakes will function as currency. It does the exact opposite. Corporations operate on collective amnesia. Leadership frequently changes directions, rebrands failures as pivots, and relies on a shifting narrative to maintain authority and project competence. An experienced employee who accurately remembers the past, who knows the bodies buried in the archives, the abandoned initiatives, and the executive miscalculations, is a direct threat to this necessary amnesia. You become a historian in a regime that requires unquestioning forward momentum. When you bring up past institutional failures, even to highlight your own heroism, you cause friction. You remind your manager of a time when the system lost control. The system despises employees with long memories because they possess the data required to challenge current management narratives. Management will not reward you for reminding them of their incompetence. Instead, they will begin to view you as a cynical, outdated variable that needs to be marginalized or replaced by a newer employee who possesses no institutional memory and will blindly accept the current dogma. I deserve this raise because I am the ultimate cultural fit and I bring the best energy to the team. You must decipher the actual meaning of HR language. Concepts like cultural fit, team player, and positive energy are heavily weaponized corporate constructs. They are masks for obedience and low maintenance cost. When HR and management praise your cultural fit, they are not acknowledging your personality, they are acknowledging that your behavioral profile aligns with their desire for friction-free compliance. You do not push back on unreasonable deadlines, you do not question leadership metrics, you absorb systemic stress without vocal complaint. Good energy is the corporate synonym for cheerful submission. When you use these terms to justify a salary increase, you are utilizing an inherently submissive vocabulary to demand an aggressive financial outcome. It is a strategic contradiction. The system pays a premium for scarce, high-yield skills, not for compliance. Compliance is the baseline expectation, not a premium commodity. If you lean on cultural fit as your primary argument for more money, the manager hears that you have no quantifiable, data-backed achievements to present. You are relying on subjective, manufactured metrics that the company invented specifically to keep you docile. You cannot use the master's tools to dismantle the master's house. If I do not get this specific number, I am going to have to look elsewhere, or I know exactly what colleague's name is making. Issuing an ultimatum or revealing that you have breached the implicit confidentiality of the payroll structure makes you an unpredictable asset. As established, the system prioritizes predictability above all else. If you issue a threat to leave without a signed offer letter from a competitor already in your hand, you trigger a containment protocol. The manager may smile, tell you they will see what they can do, and nod empathetically. However, the moment you leave the room, the calculus changes. You have declared yourself a flight risk. You are no longer a long-term investment. You are a short-term liability. The company will string you along with minor concessions, while immediately beginning the silent process of sourcing your replacement. Similarly, bringing up a colleague's salary introduces unauthorized volatility into the management structure. It shows that you are capable of organizing and sharing restricted data, which threatens the information asymmetry the company relies on to keep wages low across the board. The system will not correct the pay disparity to make things fair. It will target you for elimination because you are a vector for internal dissent. Conclusion and strategy. The modern corporate apparatus relies on your belief in a psychological contract that does not actually exist. The vertigo you feel is the friction between the emotional investment you make in the company and the purely algorithmic way the company calculates you. Do not rely on empty motivational mantras. Discard the notion that the company owes you anything for your tenure. To successfully navigate this environment, you must adopt the exact same cold, dispassionate logic that the system uses against you. Control your own narrative. Do not allow your manager to define your value based on your ability to absorb their stress. Define your value strictly by the revenue you generate, the specific costs you eliminate, and the external market value of your skill set. Move out of the competency trap by training your subordinates to do your job, thereby making yourself scalable and promotable rather than stationary and indispensable. Create financial leverage. Leverage is not a threat. Leverage is an alternative. You do not have leverage unless you are completely willing and financially able to walk away from the table. Cultivate external options continuously. The system only respects entities that can survive without it. Finally, view loyalty as an illusion, not a strategy. Loyalty is a human emotion, and you are negotiating with a machine. The machine will happily consume your loyalty, but it will never dispense it in return. Approach every salary negotiation not as a loyal servant asking for a reward, but as a sovereign vendor renegotiating the price of a highly sought-after commodity.